shall be absolutely no interference, not only by the so-called by the civil service, by the government, but even by the courts. Even the High Court could not exercise its inherent powers to monitor investigations. But the Supreme Court in the decades of 90s and thereafter had to change its views, and now a large number of investigations are being monitored by the courts. With respect, I should say, this may be a slight variance with the basic scheme of the Constitution, which says that there is a separation of powers. The executive, the legislature, and the courts, post-Keshav Nand Bharti celebrated ruling, work in separation from Parliament. The Constitutional Review Commission, which I just mentioned, has said that 80% of the arrests in India are being made are unnecessary. One can only visualize 80% of the people being arrested even in cognizable cases, and in some in non-cognizable cases, the pressure on the judiciary, the courts, and the jails. The National Daily recently conducted a poll in Bombay and Delhi, and 75% of the people said we would think twice before filing an FIR. At times the reforms that are suggested are worse than the disease. With respect, 1861 Act is said to be antiquated, but 1861 Act is not a substantive act. It is merely regulates the internal policing. It is hardly 40 sections, sir, and it is adjunct to the CRPC, which is the main law. The CRPC, the only flaw in that, if one can call, in the perfect legislation by Lord Macaulay was that he called it criminal procedure, but it's not procedural. It is substantive, in the sense that it establishes civilian control on the armed services of the state. As his Lordship mentioned, there are a number of commissions, 1973 Police Commission. The Government of India in its wisdom had to reject it because some of the suggestions were against the basic scheme of the Constitution. For example, judiciary would be involved in investigation offences by the police. The confessions to police would be admissible. The Honorable Supreme Court has said that on confession alone by an accused is sufficient to impose a sentence of death. So to legalize a confession to a police officer would virtually hand over the power of life and death. It's a different thing with the courts in the liberal tradition that we are inheriting. They say as a rule of procedure, a rule of prudence, ask for some other evidence. The most important suggestion by the Police Commission of 1981 was that there is a police-politician nexus. It is because senior police officers are hobnobbing with the ruling politicians for post-retirement benefits. When the public interest litigation was moved before the Honorable Supreme Court, it was not said that ironically, after the submission of the Police Commission report, which is written largely by police officers and policemen themselves, the trend has started of posting policemen as head of the state governments, as governors and lieutenants. I leave it to this august house to say what will be its effect on police-politician nexus. Because the basic scheme of the Constitution was disturbed, the Keshav Nand Bharti ruling had come in 1973, Police Commission in 1981 made certain suggestions which were contrary to the provisions of law. For example, just one example, right to assemble peaceably and without arms is a fundamental right. The right to assemble as an assembly has been described as a collective freedom of speech. So the Police Commission said the permission must be taken from the officer in charge of the police. In other words, if we have to exercise our right to collective freedom of speech, we have to go to the police station and ask the SHO, sir, I want your permission to assemble peaceably without arms. Similarly with Soli Sorabji, with respect, it must be said that Mr. Soli Sorabji, maybe he was busy in other things, he signed a report which was written largely by the police. For example, public nuisance, which is in the criminal procedure code, public nuisance is not an offence. It's not even a civil wrong. It's a civil lapse. the solution of the committee said that make public nuisance an offence. Anyone likely to commit an offence will be arrested without warrant. Unfortunate suggestion, because Mr. Soli Swarabji was also the respected Attorney General, was a member of the National Constitutional Commission. The other suggestions have basically subverted, I should say, or disturbed the Criminal Procedure Code, which is perhaps the finest criminal code in the world. The executive-judicial equation has been is sought to be disturbed. For example, it says police boards will be there in all the states. They will be responsible for policy. In a democracy, the policy functions the police boards will comprise officials and non-officials. So can, in a democracy, and it will not be accountable to anybody, can the elected government, which is accountable to the state legislature, delegate this power to non-officials? And those non-officials will be men of proven integrity and competence. I wonder in law how we can judge and certify a man's proven competence. The other drastic suggestion was to enshrine constructive criminal liability. You see, as the law laid down by the Honorable Supreme Court, that constructive criminal liability is not recognized. But the Model Police Act says that if the servant will be responsible for the acts of the owner. Not only that, the owner will also be held liable. So in this scenario, the Government of India in its wisdom have rejected some of the police reports as being too drastic and disturbing the balance between the executive, the legislature and the judiciary. I would also suggest that if we are to have meaningful police reforms, we must have a second police commission comprising exclusively of jurists, eminent jurists. Well, Justice Silpurkar himself is a very eminent jurist, he'll be taking interest in this. So that meaningful, unless this is done, no reforms will be possible. Why? I support it with the view that the basic criminal procedure code of the country has been, gives licensing powers to the magistracy. So-called, the bureaucrats are executive magistrates, trained. So if the Law Commission, which went into, headed by a very distinguished Supreme Court judge, said that the licensing powers should be exclusively with the magistracy and not with the police. But what we see a reverse flow. That increasingly, the Deputy Commissioner of Police licensing is being vested with executive functions. I think this is not a healthy development for any democracy. The security of the state is said to be entrusted to the Director General of Police. The security of the state, Supreme Court says in 3 concentric circles, the police are responsible for law and order. Security of the state, in a minute. Security of the state is a very broad concept. It cannot be left to the head of a directorate. It is the prerogative of the government, headed by an elected government, an elected cabinet. So with these few words, I would conclude and say that we cannot, unless we revert to the Jeffersonian principle, that the enforcement functions should be with the police, but licensing and executive functions must be with executive magistrates. Thank you.
So that's illuminating address.
Sir, I will request the chair.
Yes,
Sir, that the participant should also be given the opportunity to say something on this.
yes, you are going to have the question and answer session. Don't worry about
We want to
it.
put forth, besides the question and answer series, we would like to put forth our views also.
No, we don't have time. We don't have time. The panelists, let the panelists be finished. If we are left with some time, we will answer.
One of the speakers.
We will the stress on the need of new commission of jurists, and most important, no licensing by the police, where a very substantive suggestion has come from a very mature bureaucrat who was himself a trained magistrate.
Thank you.
I will now request Mr. Kamraj, who was himself a member of the police force, to share his experience and to see what he has to say about it.
Other dignitaries on the dais, respected ladies and gentlemen. I think it is a great privilege and opportunity for me to share my views with you. Having served nearly over 25 years, I thought, because everybody tries to put blame on others, I am a different man. I want to take the blame on myself. There is no point in blaming the politicians because everyone blames that politicians are culprits, nobody else. It is totally unacceptable. Because the law gives you a lot of powers, responsibilities. If we as a police officer not able to establish, we are the culprits. We as a policeman, for the last 65 years of independence, not able to register even a single FIR in the police station, then we don't worth the salt. We try our level best. We try, as the Honorable Justice have pointed out, that we are not able to register a case in the police station, not able to at least conduct a proper investigation, not able to get conviction. It's totally it is out of the purview of others. If we do perform sincerely with a lot of commitment, we can do it. It is because of the non-performance, unwillingly, they don't want to perform it for whatever may be the reasons. It is the failure on the part of the police leadership. I take the blame that we have caused a lot of deterioration in their committing a lot of things. They say that others are at fault. I never agree to that, because in the investigation process, I receive a lot of complaints. Every day I used to meet at least 300 and on average. It's not necessary as a supervisory level officer, it is not warranted also. My job is to supervise my subordinate officers. Even then, there has to be some at least opening. If somebody is not listening to at the lower level, at least there is one. Somebody is there to listen to the grievances of the poor people, sufferings of the poor people. So, since my experience shows that if you want, you can change it, because law provides everything to a police officer. There is no need to at least tell somebody, no, it is very unfortunate that to function the basic functions of the police officer, there has to be a National Police Commission. There has to be other committees and high power committees to tell the basic things that you do your work properly. Therefore, if we are not able to do the work sincerely because of the partition and our personal reasons, and the image of the police suffered, because of the suffered image, we are not able to perform our duties because the police is generally not respected by the public as a whole. In order to reverse this issue, only thing is strengthen the hands of the police by providing good training, because now what I am thinking is that the patriotism is lacking, because from the interest of the society is gone, given a go by, and the selfish interest has developed. Unless and until the patriotism, the interest of the society is in the minds of the people, because it has to be, we are being paid by the government for performing certain duties and responsibilities. If we are able to do that, and it will be a great failure on our part. I tell you, when I received a lot of complaints from the public, I started an opening a crime analysis wing, whereby I used to analyze the crime. What lacuna they have committed, what direction I can give it to them, and what if it is deliberately done, with malafide intention, what action I can take. Because I used to take action, I used to suspend the people, start department